Hello, Mr. Jones here. Today we are going to begin our first program on Robot C. First, you'll see on your computer here there will be 3 folders up there, one for each class. What I want you to do is click on that folder's name, click on it again, and then type in the name of yourself and your partner's name, and then whatever class period you're in. I chose 1A just for an example. That's where we're going to save our programs on this. You'll have the same computer each time, and then we'll be able to save our programs into that folder. Today we're going to take our test bed that you see in the middle of your tables, and we are going to program this VEX robot to spin the left wheel and the right wheel simultaneously. So our computer, we do all of our programming in a Robot C, and then we download it to the brains of the whole operation here, the VEX Cortex, and then once we tell it to start the program, it'll run the left motor and the right motor there to do what we want it to do. Alright, go ahead and open Robot C. And we're going to start with a new file. You should see a new file button up in your corner there. Click on a new file. And if you did that correctly, right now it should be a blank screen here that says task main. And a couple curly brackets there. Between the 2 curly brackets is where we're going to put all of our program in and tell the computer what to do. It does everything in a sequential order. So if I want the left motor to turn first, I'm going to put the left motor towards the top, and then the right motor to turn next. The right motor is going to go just below that, and I'm going to do everything in sequential order. So it's good to have a plan whenever you do any programming. Alright, now we're going to take a look and make sure that this is programming the right kind of robot. This particular program can program 3 different types of robots. So the first thing what we're going to do is we're going to go to up on the top row here, we're going to click on Robot and go down to Platform Type. And you can see mine's already clicked on VEX 2.0 Cortex. That's what I want. If it's not, you can go down to VEX Robotics and actually click on the VEX 2.0 Cortex to make sure you have the correct robot program that we're running in this class. Alright. After that, we're going to define our 2 motors. So see the taskbar here in the middle? We're going to go to Motor and Sensor Setup. And you have a bunch of tabs that are open. We're going to click on Motors, and we're going to type in our 2 motors. In port 1, I want you to type in left motor, all lowercase and no spaces. And in port 10, I want you to type in right motor, all lowercase, no spaces. And then you can go ahead and plug in the left motor into port 1 into the Cortex, and the right motor into port 10 into the Cortex. Those you can see right over here in the different ports. Okay. Now we need to tell it what type of motor we have. We have what's called the VEX 393 motors. So on the drop-down menu here on the type, click on VEX 393 motor, and do the same thing for our right motor in port 10, VEX 393 motor. We're not going to mess with any of these 3 things on this side, except for where you have that reverse checkbox. Every once in a while the motor might be turning the opposite direction in what you want it to be doing. In that case, you can click on the reverse checkbox and it'll reverse what you're doing and go the opposite direction, counterclockwise or clockwise. I'm going to uncheck that for now. But right now I have things set up the way I want it. In port 1 I have left motor, VEX 393. Port 10 I have right motor, VEX 393. I'm going to go ahead and click Apply, and then click OK. notice what came up here at the top. It automatically put all that configurations in for me. It says motor, port 1, left motor, motor, port 10 is the right motor. It's all VEX 393, and I'll put that code in there automatically generated for you. Alright, now we're going to tell it what to do. So in the task main, within those two curly brackets here, this is where we tell everything that we want it to do. So we're going to start here by typing. I'm going to start typing motor. And then I am going to, right next to the P button is the square bracket. And notice it comes up with port 1, port 10, port 2. I can click on any one of those right now that I want. I prefer typing in what the actual motor name is, so that if I ever need to go back, it's easier to find and go back to the error portion and figure that out. So I'm going to actually type in left motor and close off my square bracket. Alright, now I need to tell that motor how fast I want it to run. So I'm going to type space equals space, then I'm going to type in 127. Now our motors go anywhere from 0, meaning as at stopped, it's not going anywhere, to 127, which is full speed. So if you wanted it to go half speed, well, 127 divided by 2 would give you roughly 63. Would be the half speed if you wanted to change it to that. Every time after we finish a line of code, right at the end here, we're going to click on the semicolon, which is right next to your L key, and that tells it that we're done with that line. Okay, now I'm going to enter, and I'm going to do the same thing for the right motor. I'm going to type in motor, square bracket, right motor, close off the square bracket, space equals 127, and semicolon. Alright, so right now what would happen here is in the program here is the program would look at this and go, okay, left motor turn on 127, and this will happen for just a fraction of a millisecond, real fast, and then it'll go on to the next line and say right motor turn on for 127, fraction of a millisecond, your program's done, all the wheels are stopped. Okay, what if we want to continuously run those wheels? So what we need to do is we need to come up with some sort of loop to make that continuously keep going back and forth and rereading those codes and those lines of code there. So I'm going to create a little bit of space here. I'm going to click enter a couple times. And I'm going to create a condition. So I'm going to type in while, and then the C bracket. It's up by the 9 key. If you hold down the shift key, you can get that. 1 equals 1. And I'm going to close off that C bracket. Okay. We are using 2 equal sign actually here because we are actually comparing 1 to 1. Alright, let me ask you a question. When is 1 not equal to 1? Well, that's never going to happen. 1 is always equal to 1. So therefore, I'm telling us that this is a true statement. That's always true. Okay. So within this, I'm going to actually keep this whole chunk of code together. So I'm going to create a squiggly bracket here, and I'm going to close off that squiggly bracket right after our other code there. So I'm keeping that little chunk together. So it says while 1 equals 1, left motor turns on, right motor turns on, comes back, asks itself again, does 1 still equal 1? Well, yes it does, and it keeps going back and forth within that. Okay. Now, checking for errors. You always check your for errors before you download it to your robot. So I'm going to click on compile program. Oops. Probably need to save it first actually. Let's go to back check here. Let's go to save and to desktop. And you want to save it within your file folder there. and go ahead and name that Practice 1 Motors. Practice 1 Motors, and click on Save. Okay, so I actually have that source saved within my folder that I created there. Now I can go compile the program, look to see if there's any errors. This actually doesn't say there's any errors in there, so I'm good to go to download to my robot. What if I did make an error? Let's say on line 9 here, let's say I didn't add that semicolon in. What happens when I click on compile program? It says, "Oop, warning, there's a missing semicolon somewhere." And I go back up to line 9 where that big yellow X is. Well, it is missing a semicolon. Click on that. Compile the program again to see if there are any errors, and I'm good to go. Now, make sure your orange cord is plugged into your VEX Cortex, and then make sure the other end is plugged into the computer, and you're going to go ahead and click on Download to Robot. When you click on Download to Robot, a big square box is going to come up, and there will be a Start button. When you're ready to start your program, you click the Start, and let it run for a little while, and then go ahead and stop it, and you completed your first program. Congratulations. I'll see you again in my second recording when we do a bump switch.